So now we're going to take a look at the free software that you've got with your machine. So this is Premiere Plus 2 Intro, a little bit more than the normal free software that we give away. So if you want to download that to use with your machine, you go to premiereplusembroidery.com, click on the download link and software downloads, and that will take you to the download page for both Windows and Mac. So there's your Windows and Mac. There are installation videos here, so that it makes it easy for you to understand exactly what you're meant to be doing. And you need to have kept that activation code safe that came in your box. Without that, you'll only have access to the free version. There are some more bits on the intro version that are really useful. So I'm not going to go through the installation of that now, because we've obviously already got that on these videos, but at least you know where to find it. So here we are in the software itself. I've opened it up. Most of this stuff is greyed out at the moment, so what I'm going to do is put a design in and then most of this will come to life. So if I go to File and Open, I have actually got the Creative 1.5 designs that you got on your USB stick actually on my computer. So you need a backup of these. Don't just rely on the USB stick. If you do lose the USB stick, you can download these again, so don't worry about that. They are available if it comes to any mishap. One of the first things you'll notice is I can actually see the designs. Part of the software that you installed actually lets you see the actual pictures or thumbnails of the designs that you've downloaded or got on your computer or whatever. We can do those in different sizes. It works just like Windows Explorer. In fact, in Windows Explorer you'll be able to see exactly the same thing. So it makes it much easier. Rather than looking for a file name, you're looking for an actual picture. Much easier. I'm going to select that flower. Let's just open that. And now you can see all this along the top has come to life. Now some of these functions you'll be able to do on your machine, but also because you've got this on a computer screen and it's in colour and it's bigger, it's going to be much easier to do on here. Get all your design ready to put in the machine, put it on a USB stick, and then actually stitch it out without needing to do too much on the front panel of your machine. So let's work our way across here and we'll show you what all these things do. So we can copy a design, and you see that's come up in the clipboard in the corner there, and I can paste it. Now I've got a choice. I can paste it. I've got two of them, look, and you paste into the center. If that wasn't in the center in the first place, let's just do paste into center. There you go. So I've got three of them. I can cut. I can select one. You have to select it to be able to do these things, and duplicate again, and duplicate again, and duplicate again. Just keep going. If you want to undo anything, you've got undo and redo at the top here, or Control Z works great. We can do a box select. So I can draw a box around something to select it. I can draw a box around two things and select them. I could, if I do a box select and I completely enclose one but not the other, it'll only select the one that I've completely enclosed. So if I duplicate that and overlap it with the other one, for instance, if I box select, I don't have to completely enclose both of them. Yeah, so it will only pick up the ones I want. So let's get rid of that one. Select all or select none, just the same. We can work through the designs, so let me just duplicate one. Right, because that's very much on top of the other one, it's actually quite difficult to select one or the other. easily. I can't kind of get to the other one very well, yeah, but what I can do is I can use these arrows to take me backwards and forwards through all the open designs. So it's gone to that one, now it's got the underneath one, and I can pull that one out the way. So it is just a question of cycling through all the open designs one by one, and you go backwards and forwards. The next one is resize. Now this is switching between scale, which lets you make it bigger or smaller but doesn't change the stitch count, so you can't change it too much. Usually the limit's about 20% either way. Or resize, which will actually let you make it bigger or smaller, but it will also change the stitch count. So if we look at the design panel over here, I've got that design selected and it says it's 4,690 stitches. So if I grab hold of that handle on the corner there and I use the left mouse key, I can make it bigger or smaller. Now at the moment that can go in all sorts of directions. I'm just going to undo that. If I hold the control key down as well, so it's control, left mouse, and then just move the mouse, it keeps it in proportion. But remember that stitch count is 4,690. It's still 4,690 because I use scale, and all it's done is it made all these stitches bigger. If I undo that and now I click on resize, can you see the corners have all changed colour to blue? So we're going to do exactly the same thing, control, left mouse, and make it bigger. Stitch count is 4,690. It's now 8,318. So can you see this bit down here is not as spiky as it was before, but it's because it's filled in with extra stitches rather than just making the existing ones bigger. So that's resize. That's something you don't get with the free version. Let's put that in the middle. That looks rather nice now, doesn't it? Quite taken with that. About there-ish. It's quite a pleasing thing. Combine will let us take all of those designs and merge them into one. So if I do combine all, that's now taken those three designs and they're now all put together as one. So we've only got one design to stitch out. But if we go across to the colours here, you can see we've got lots and lots of repeats. Got 18 different colour changes, 18 different colours, which you can see in the box up here. So as well as combining, we can colour sort. So if I click on that, can you see we've now only got 4 colours? So instead of having to do all of that one design and then move on to the next and do all the colour changes associated with that, and on to the next, all the colour changes associated with that, we can do all the pink together, all the maroon together, all the black together, and so on. So it minimises the number of times we have to keep changing the thread. Rotate, we can do 45 degrees at a time with this button here. So literally just keep pressing it and it will rotate back to the beginning. Or we can actually grab hold of this little circular icon here, and you can see you've got a circular arrow that comes up, and I can literally spin it to wherever. They're in 1 degree increments, so wherever you like, no big problem there. Also you've got triangles on the side there to flip vertically and horizontally, and if you go to modify design, this again will let you change the size. So I can do it by a certain percentage if I want. If you want to hit that box, you can make it taller without making it wider, and so on. And you can actually rotate 1 degree at a time through that as well if you want to be very precise about it. I'm just going to cancel that so it doesn't actually change anything. I'm just going to move that off center a second to demonstrate the next thing. Alignment, if I click on there, I can actually get the whole design centered in the hoop. So that's exactly in the center. We can do the same thing again, but just move it into the hoop. Sometimes if you've made a design bigger or whatever, you may have stretched it outside the confines of the hoop, which is this grid here. That's the outside stitching line of the hoop. So if I click on move into hoop, it will move it into the closest spot where it's actually inside the stitchable area. So if I did that over here, it'll move it to that corner. Now if you wanted to repeat a design 4 times in each corner, that's actually quite a good way of getting them lined up, so they will all be perfectly aligned into the corner. Or you can use the grid to do that if you're trying to position something, but you know, it's quite a quick way of doing it. So we've gone through all of these things at the top here, and I think you'll agree you can do an awful lot in just combining and positioning designs and things like that. If I want to bring another design in, if I went to File and Open, it would basically close the stuff I'd already done and start a new embroidery, and I don't want it to do that. So what I'm going to do is right up at the top here, I've got insert, so I can insert another embroidery into what I've already got. So let's pick something. It doesn't really matter what it is, does it? Let's pick that one. So for instance, if I wanted to sort of have that dotted about, and then I can sort of pick how I want it in. You can just keep building it up and building it up. If you find that, you know, your hoop size isn't right, you can still go back and change your hoop to fit and all the rest of it. You can go back and play about with this as much as you like. So that's how you'd bring an extra design in there. Right, what I'm going to do now is I'm just going to push that up into that corner. In fact, I'm going to use the move into hoop, and we're going to have a look at some of these other tabs here. Now, wizards in this version you don't have access to. Those are in the further up paid versions, but what you do have is the letter tab, and in a moment it's going to get there. Yep, perfect. Now with the free version we have something called quick font, which is accessed via this little green cross at the bottom there. However, on this we've got something a bit better. You've already got some extra fonts built into here, so if we drop that box down and I go right up to the top, I think there's 12 in all. You've got these fonts that are coloured. The greyed out ones aren't available to you. Again, they're in versions further up that are paid for, but you've got some extra fonts in there which are, you know, quite special. They're quite ornate or intricate. I mean, this one particularly with the floral trellis. You've got like an applique font. You've got, yeah, 1 or 2 different ones. Now we get to a section called My Fonts, and you can see here some fonts that I've created. So this is where it puts them in the software, but we'll come back to that in a moment. We'll show you how to do that. So yeah, you've got a couple of script ones there that are rather nice, and some block ones. So that's what you've got available to you. But we're going to use the font manager and create our own. So if we click on that and we go down here to quick font, remember I said that was what was normally accessed on the free version by this green cross at the bottom, and what it brings up is another dialog box. Now this is how you convert the fonts that are already in your computer, the true type fonts or open type fonts, depending on whether you're using PC or Mac. If we drop this box down, these are all the fonts that are installed in my computer, of which there are rather a lot. I think you can kind of appreciate that there aren't many embroidery machines that would come with the wherewithal to actually produce all these different fonts. Even Wingdings, we've got all sorts of funny things in there. So I think this really for free is absolutely fantastic. So if I go, let's pick a font. Let's pick, we've picked the stencil one. We've already got that one there. So we have a choice of styles. You can have the regular font as it comes, or you can make it bold, or you can make it italic, or you can make it both. I'm just going to go for the regular one so that it's nice and clear. And then you have a choice for either putting it on a USB stick to put in your embroidery machine and use like you use the inbuilt fonts in there, or you can use it in the Premiere Plus 2 embroidery system. You remember we looked at the fonts that were already in here and we found a section called My Fonts. That's where it would go. So character set, I would leave it on extended for most things, but you have got Russian, Japanese, Greek, Hebrew, one or two different things in there that you may never use, but they're there if you want them. And we're just going to go on to the next page. Now, we have a choice of how we produce these fonts. So we can have a satin font. That's what you're pretty used to. We can change that to a pattern fill. And we have the option to change the pattern. We've got lots of different patterns that you can have a play with. In actual fact, the hearts is rather nice. I'm going to leave it at that, but what I am going to do is I'm going to change the angle of it. I don't know if you can see, they're actually sort of on their side at the moment. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to change that angle to 0, and now they're upright. That's better. I don't know if we can change the size on that. No, we can't. So it is what it is. You can change the density a bit if you find it's too dense. With fonts that can be a bit of an issue, so you have the option to change that. If we go down to here, we can actually change the size range, and on the free version you would only get one output size. This wouldn't be greyed out, this would. But we can change the minimum and maximum size of our letters. So I'm going to take that down to 10, and I'm going to take that one down to 30. And you can see what a difference that now makes to the letters. Because they were very large before, those hearts look quite small, but in actual fact they're actually much bigger than you thought they were. So you can play about and make different sizes of letters. There will be limits at either end. It won't let you go to ridiculous extremes either way. Joining point, baseline is along the bottom, so each letter would be joined with a jump stitch, or the crossing would be at the bottom. Nearest point will pick what it says, and continuous actually is pretty close to baseline. There's not a lot of difference there. And thread colour, we've got loads of different thread colours. I've actually got this set so that, and you can do this in the configure part of the program. I'm not going to touch on that now, but I've got it set so that it always brings up the Madeira rayon colours. But if I show you all the thread ranges, it doesn't matter what you've got really. I'm sure it's in there somewhere. There's lots. So you've got all the major ones: Robinson Anton, Sulky, Superior, obviously Madeira, King Star. Yeah, there's so much there. Isocord, Hemingworth, Floriani. Yeah, there's loads of different makes in there. So whatever your range of threads is, in all probability it will be in there. You've got a range of quick colours if you just want to get a quick impression of what it's going to look like, but you've also got different themes. So you've got sort of spring, fall is more autumnal. I think you get the gist. And this is the full range of Madeira rayon colours with all their numbers, so I can pick an individual colour out. So for instance, 1001 is white in Madeira, so if I type in 1001 in that box, there we are, it's found 1001. That's the colour I want. I could go on with that. 1000 is black, I think. Yeah. Or we could just pick something, I don't know, we'll pick the pink. These bits are greyed out again because they're not appropriate in this version of the software, but I mean, you've got an awful lot to go at there already. And we've only got to pattern fill. We've now got pattern fill and satin border. So you can change the thread colour of the inside, and you can change the border thread colour around the outside as well. And again, you've got stitch options for the centre, and you've got stitch options for the border, just a satin border on its own, applique, so this will actually digitise applique letters for you. You can see these sizes are defaulting to much bigger on this. You won't be able to take those down too small because they'd be too fiddly. And you've got just a plain outline. So I think what I'm going to go for is that lovely pattern fill that I did earlier, which is a bit mad. I'll change the size down again. Let's just, oops, so make that 10, make that 30, and when I'm happy with that, I'll go to next. Now it's actually generating my font. If we look at the font name up here, Stencil was the original font that we took from the computer. R is for regular, E is for the extended character set, and then the two sizes were between 10 and 30 millimeters. So you can actually tell by the file name what you've actually produced. It's saving it to My Fonts. It's not saving to the USB stick. That would have been the other option that we would have chosen earlier on. You can, if you really want to, print a copy of all of these. I think, you know, not really necessary, but we can scroll through all the individual letters. And obviously we've picked one here that is probably only uppercase, but you would have lowercase and numbers and all sorts of things. And there was an @ symbol there that we just flicked past very quickly. So I think that is really, really absolutely marvellous for free. I mean, what else can you say? We've now got things with accents on. So if that's the only font you want to do, that's great. You just go to finish. If you want to produce another one so that you don't have to go back into this again, you can just tick that box and say, right, save this one and I want to make another one. But we're just going to finish. Okay, and we'll close that now because we have finished with it. And I'm going to go back up here and use the drop down box again and find My Fonts. There's the font we've just produced. So I'm going to click on that and I'm going to use that in my design here. So I'm going to type in Louise. I'm going to make it, yeah, let's make it 10 mil, that'll be fine. And I have a choice now. We can change the gap between the letters, we can stretch the whole word out sideways, we can stretch it upwards. I'm not going to bother with any of that. That will give you a horizontal block of letters, that will give you a vertical one, and then these will curve round an arc. I'm going to put the vertical one in first just so you can see what that looks like. Colour sorting isn't really going to be necessary. You can change the connectors, whether it does a thread cut or whether it just does a jump stitch in between. Doesn't really matter for this. I'm just going to click apply, and there's my lettering. Now I think that's a bit small. Shall we make it a bit bigger? So let's do that again, and I'm going to take that up to 20 millimeters and do the same thing again. That's more like it. So I'll delete that original one. Let's get hold of that, and there's my lettering. Okay, I'm now going to do something ever so slightly different, and I'm going to take that one away. I'm now going to show you how it works on an arc, and I'm going to do it on a counterclockwise arc. Let's just take that down to 15 and click apply. Right, I can actually pick that up. Can you see it's drawn a circle and it's got the name written around it? I can make that circle bigger, so it makes the arc on the word here less extreme. I can make it smaller, I can make it really tight like that. I'm going to make it a bit bigger. I'm just going to get that into place, and then I'm actually going to move the whole word around the circle like that. Look at that. That's great, isn't it? So let's just get that there, and remember I can't get at that because it's underneath this big one, so if I go to next design, now I can pick that up. See, it comes in useful, and that just fits round that flower just nicely, doesn't it? How about that? So now I'm just going to combine everything into one design. I'm going to centre it. There we go. I think that's all ready to stitch out. So first thing we need to do is save it. So if we go to File and Save. Now this isn't where it'll save on yours. This is my Sonnet Cloud because I have a Wi-Fi enabled machine, but doesn't really matter where you save it. If I do Louise's Flowers as the file name and click Save. Now I don't know if you noticed in there it saves as a VP4 file. Now that's far more editable than the standard VP3 file. If I want to go back and change something later, it's going to be far easier than to try and change a VP3 file that has been fixed as stitches. So always save in VP4 to start with, and then for your file to actually go into your machine, if we go to File and Export, we now have the option to export in all those different file types, and of course the one for us is VP3. So that's exactly what I'm going to do. It colour sorts as well, unless you untick the box. So you remember when we had the 3 different flowers that were all using the same colours over and over again, it would sort that out. It will also take out any sort of small stitches or anything like that that are not going to stitch very well. And it also rotates the whole thing to fit the natural hoop position, so it's showing you the hoop in the way it goes in the machine. So I'm going to click OK, and can you see it's now giving it a file name of Louise's Flowers exported as a VP3. So that's the one we're going to use in our machine. Now if I go to Windows Explorer and I go to my Sonnet Cloud, where I know they are, so we've got Louise's Flowers and we've got Louise's Flowers exported. So that's the one that I want to put on my USB stick. So I'm just going to put one of those in my machine, so you will probably see that come up at the bottom corner here as I plug it in. There we go. So I'm now going to right click, and you have the option to send to the USB drive. So if I now go to here, there's my file ready to go into my machine. So I need to go to the bottom of my page here, safely remove the USB drive, and then I can just take that out, put it in my machine, stitch it out. It's as simple as that. Now just one or two little things at the end just to run through with you. Down at this bottom corner here we've got the zoom functions, so we can zoom in, so we can really look in at stitches very, very closely. We can go zoom to fit, which will bring it back to the normal size, the normal view, and we can actually zoom into a rectangle. So for instance, if I wanted to zoom in on that E there and just see how that looked, I can go up and down a bit. I can use the bars at the side. You can get really close in there. Going back up to the view at the top, we also have different ways of looking at this. We can change the size of the grid. You may not want to see the grid at all, you can take that off. But at the moment we're in 3D view. We've got realistic 3D view, which is basically the same but without the grid at the back. And then we've got 2D view, and in 2D view you can see the individual stitches, and we can really zoom right in up to 800% and look at exactly what's happening. So if you're trying to line something up very precisely, you get it somewhere close and then you zoom in on a particular area, you can be absolutely precise with how you place some of these designs. When you've finished, just zoom back out again, and that's what it looks like in the 2D view if you were just sort of showing it as pure stitches and not trying to replicate what the actual embroidery would look like. There we go. We've also got frames. We can add frames to our designs. So let's go, that one might be quite nice. We can tell it what margin we want. We've got more frames than that. You haven't got them all again because some of them are in the paid versions, so if they're greyed out you don't have them. So I think that might be the only ones we've got, but that, you know, at least you've got the facility to do that. Let's just close that up. That's it. You can tell it how far away from the design you want it. Just click apply, and I am actually going to, let's not do that proportional, let's go that way. I can make all this fit quite easily. Let's just go back out that way. So you can play about with your design. And if I centre that as well, and we know our design is centred, there we go. It's very precise, isn't it? I'm just going to clear this completely actually, so if I go to File and New, yeah, I'm not going to save that because we've already done that. The last one is Super Designs. Now Super Designs are a particular type of design which again, they're more editable. I don't know if you can see at the top here, category animals. There are actually lots more than that. If I do all, it's going to have a think about that for a while. Again, you haven't got them all, but you've got several different ones that you can have a play about with. Gives you a bit of a flavour of how these work. Oops, just gone past them there. So we've got, let's choose the melon. I think that's quite nice. We can tell it what size we want, and I mean we can tell it what size we want. I'm going to have 100mm melon, and I'm going to click apply. Look at the detail on that. Let's just zoom in a little. Can you see how detailed that design is? Now if I do another melon, and I do it 20mm this time, and we zoom in on that one, there won't be as much detail because it's smaller, but it's adjusted it. It's actually adjusted the detail in the design. It isn't just about making it bigger or smaller and filling that in with stitches that, yeah, there might be more of them, but they're exactly the same. It's actually done it from the raw design and made me a new design, if you like. Each one will be exactly right for the size you make. If I now, let's make that bigger. Did you see the detail change? We've got finer detail again, like we have in this one. Let's just move him out the way. So I'm going to make him bigger again. Can you see how similar those are now? Because it's put that detail back in. So super designs, you've got a few on there, but they are very special in terms of, you know, what you're able to do with the sizing and everything. Even resize won't get you that increase in detail when you make them bigger, or obviously sort out the detail when you make them smaller as well. So that's super designs. The last thing on here I'm going to look at is the help. You've got help. You need to be connected to the internet for this, but there is all sorts of links to getting further learning. So that's it. That's the end of my tutorial on the Premiere Plus 2 intro software and the Creative 1.5. I hope if you've already got a machine that's really helped you, and if you're actually looking at buying one of the machines, you can now see exactly what you're getting. I think it's a fantastic package and I hope you really enjoy it.